Because everybody's coming for a chunk of your flesh, and they're hoping to get it for nothing. But all it takes at an auction to make money is two guys really want the same thing.
Mike Hall from Rust Valley Restorers, and his lifestyle is way more fascinating than most people realize. What started as a deep obsession with old, forgotten cars slowly turned into serious money, TV fame, and a reputation that car lovers around the world respect. But here's the thing.
And sometimes I regret my decisions when I lose 10, 20 grand on a car, but everybody else, like I say, for everyone I'm sad about, there's somebody that's really happy because they got a smoking deal.
The real story isn't just about money or cars. It's about how Mike thinks, lives, and makes bold moves most people wouldn't dare try. Stick around and watch till the very end. You won't look at his success the same way again. The passion that built a lifestyle. Born in 1958, Mike Hall's connection to old cars started early and grew quietly over time, shaped by the sights and sounds of an era when powerful vehicles filled streets and highways without much thought about future value. During childhood in the 1960s, large engines, loud exhaust sounds, wide seats, and bold shapes were simply part of everyday life. And no one called such machines muscle cars yet. Back then, such vehicles were just fast cars, and that normal exposure planted a deep interest that stayed. The first vehicle ever owned was a 1951 International, a rough and honest machine that introduced the feeling of working with something mechanical and real. Soon after came a second purchase, a 1961 Alpine, and that moment changed everything. That Alpine was not just another car. That Alpine opened the door to collecting, restoring, fixing, and dreaming bigger. The love for cars took root during teenage years in British Columbia, where time was spent learning how engines worked and how old metal could still hold beauty. At just 16 years old, the first classic purchase already showed that this interest went far beyond a passing hobby. A dramatic turning point arrived when the Alpine was reportedly crashed into the side of a mountain at nearly 100 miles an hour. A moment that could have ended the journey but instead pushed it forward. After that crash, the focus shifted quickly, leading to the purchase of 6 or 7 small Novas from the early to mid-1960s. That stretch marked the real beginning of serious collecting. And from that point forward, the number of vehicles continued to grow year after year. By the early adult years, buying old cars became a steady pattern, with several additions each year, even while working full-time as a professional rock blaster. During that period, cars filled space quietly in the background while regular work paid the bills. The original plan involved selling the entire collection one day, but life took a different turn in 2016. Instead of letting the cars go, a decision was made to build a full restoration shop on personal property. And that choice gave birth to Rust Brothers Restorations. That moment transformed a private passion into a full-time business, even though the transition came with uncertainty and confusion. Mike openly admitted not knowing what was happening at the start, and described the learning process as steep and demanding. Still, a rare ability to see promise where rust, dents, and decay existed helped shape the direction of the business. What others ignored or walked past became opportunity. Family played a steady role throughout this long journey. A son named Connor became known as the voice of reason, often questioning spending habits and reminding that passion still needed balance. A supportive wife, also a fan of classic cars, helped keep order by drawing clear lines, especially by refusing to allow old and broken cars onto the family farm. Friendship also mattered deeply, especially a close bond with Avery Schoaf, often called Muscle Car MacGyver, whose mechanical skill proved essential during the early days of building the shop and restoring vehicles. Together, these relationships quietly shaped a journey that began as a childhood fascination and slowly evolved into something far bigger. What started with curiosity and greasy hands grew into a massive collection of more than 400 cars, each one carrying its own history, scars, and second chance at life. It wasn't just about restoring metal, but about patience, vision, and a deep belief that old machines still had stories worth saving. And when you finally see what he's managed to bring back from the brink, it all makes sense. Stay with us and watch till the very end. You won't want to miss this. A look at his car collection and restorations. Mike Hall's ever-changing fleet of classic automobiles stands as a clear reflection of a lifelong passion that never slowed down, never settled, and never truly felt satisfied. Spread across the Tappan property, rows of vehicles sit like quiet storytellers, each one representing a different era of automotive history and a different moment in a collector's life shaped by curiosity, obsession, and deep respect for old machines. Over more than 4 decades of collecting, Hall gradually gathered more than 400 classic cars with a strong focus on American muscle from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. Anyone hearing that number might pause and ask how such a collection even becomes possible. The explanation rests in years of chasing finds, following instincts, and refusing to walk away from a vehicle that sparked excitement. At one point, a major auction cleared out most of the famous Field of Dreams junkyard, and the original plan involved keeping only 10 personal favorites. That plan quietly fell apart. Instead of 10, Hall held on to 52 cars, almost as if letting go proved harder than expected. Even after that massive sale, the collection slowly climbed again, and now sits comfortably above 100 vehicles. This rebound showed something important. Once the collecting habit sets in, can it ever truly stop? Hall openly admitted that whenever something desirable appeared, the decision came quickly, followed by a purchase and a trip home without hesitation. Many of these vehicles became familiar faces on Rust Valley Restorers, where unique restorations turned forgotten shells into memorable machines. One standout example involved a 1970 Dodge Dart Swinger that began as a rusty clunker and ended as a bright panther pink cruiser that demanded attention wherever parked. Another deeply personal project unfolded during Season 5 when a connection to family history took center stage. A Mercury sedan from the 1960s, once owned by Hall's father, became the heart of a build that carried strong emotional weight. Instead of restoring the Mercury as is, the powerful 390 cubic-inch Police Interceptor V8 engine found a new home inside a 1955 Ford Thunderbird. This blend of memory, performance, and creativity captured the spirit behind many builds featured on the show. Hall later explained that some of the most impressive cars ever created appeared during that season. That statement raised an interesting thought. Could emotional connection be just as important as metal, paint, and horsepower when building something truly special? Behind the beauty and excitement of such a massive collection sits a long list of challenges that never fade away. Maintaining vintage cars demands constant attention, space, and money. Storage alone became such a problem that 4 separate properties were purchased solely to house the growing fleet. Even with space secured, the financial side continued to climb. Restoration costs increased sharply after COVID, pushing expenses to levels that shocked even experienced builders. Hall explained that tearing a car apart almost guaranteed a restoration cost reaching $100,000. That number alone sparked questions about how collectors keep going when costs rise so fast. Beyond restoration, additional expenses piled up, including insurance, secure storage, transportation between locations, and professional detailing. Each vehicle carried ongoing responsibility, not just visual appeal. Ownership became a long-term commitment, rather than a simple purchase. Despite these pressures, business decisions often lean toward passion rather than pure profit. Hall built a reputation for honoring quotes given to customers even when costs climbed far beyond original expectations. This approach sometimes led to financial losses, especially when projects required more work than predicted. During the auction, Hall openly admitted that some vehicles sold at a painful loss, described plainly as taking a hard hit. Even so, the overall outcome balanced out with reasonable profit across the board. That honesty revealed a deeper mindset. The goal never centered solely on squeezing every dollar from a build. The focus shifted toward creating cars meant to be driven and enjoyed. Recently, attention turned toward building affordable classics known as drivers. These vehicles allowed everyday enthusiasts to experience old cars without fear or excessive cost. This direction reflected a desire to share the joy of classic cars rather than lock them away as fragile investments. In the end, every car collected, every loss endured, every hard-won victory, and every rebuild completed all led back to one lingering question. When passion is the driving force, does profit really have to come first? The answer isn't what you'd expect, so stay with us and watch till the very end. Living large in British Columbia. Nestled deep within the Shuswap region of British Columbia, an expansive 5-acre property in Tappan gradually became known as Rust Valley, a name that reflected both the land itself and the life built upon it. The property stood out not because of flashy gates or polished driveways, but because of purpose. Surrounded by rolling land, quiet roads, and distant mountain views, the space served as both a home and a working base for automotive restoration. Many people later described the setting as peaceful yet busy, rural yet full of motion. A simple question often surfaced when hearing about this place. How often does one piece of land manage to serve as a home, a workshop, and a long-term dream all at once? The answer rested in how carefully the land had been shaped to support a very specific passion. The property once appeared on the market with a listing price of 1.45 million Canadian dollars, yet those familiar with the land explained that the true value went far beyond the price tag. The open space, the zoning, and the structures already in place created a rare opportunity that could not be easily replaced elsewhere. Details about the land revealed a layout designed for serious work, rather than decoration. A 900-square-foot restoration shop stood ready for hands-on projects, while a 1,200-square-foot steel building offered additional room for storage, tools, and ongoing builds. Even more telling was the presence of steel beams and rafters stored on site, enough to support the construction of an additional 8,000 square feet of covered space if needed. That detail alone made many pause. How many rural properties came prepared not just for present needs, but for future expansion as well? The answer was very few. The location added another layer of meaning. Sitting beside the White Post Auto Museum, the property naturally blended into a small but meaningful pocket of automotive history. This unincorporated community along the shores of Shuswap Lake quietly became a gathering point for classic cars, old engines, and stories tied to machines from another time. The land did not exist in isolation. Instead, it formed part of a larger automotive landscape that felt almost intentional. The zoning of the land played a major role in shaping everything that followed. The area carried specific approval for auto salvage use, a detail that changed everything. With legal backing in place, the land could support an extensive collection of vehicles without constant restriction or interference. At one point, more than 562 vehicles occupied the space, spread across fields in varying conditions. Rows of classic cars stretched across the land, some waiting patiently for restoration, others serving as parts donors, and many simply standing as reminders of automotive history. People who visited often described the scene as overwhelming at first glance. How could so many vehicles exist in one place without chaos? The explanation came down to organization, experience, and space. The land allowed work to happen naturally, without rush, and without constant pressure to move projects elsewhere. Rust Bros Restorations operated directly from this base, eliminating the separation between personal space and professional effort. For many car enthusiasts, this setup sounded almost unreal. Living where the work lived removed barriers that often slowed progress. Beyond the business side, the lifestyle supported by the property became part of its story. Rural living offered freedom that city limits rarely allowed. Open land created quiet mornings, long workdays, and evenings free from traffic or noise. Hall once described the setting by explaining that anyone arriving at the property would face a lifetime worth of work, yet still remain only 5 minutes away from Shuswap Lake. That statement often stuck with listeners. How often did hard work and natural beauty exist side by side like that? The lake offered calm moments, fishing breaks, and space to step away from engines and tools when needed. Privacy came naturally with the land, yet accessibility remained intact. Roads allowed easy movement, and nearby landmarks kept isolation from turning into inconvenience. The balance felt intentional rather than accidental. After years spent traveling for a rock-scaling career, the Tappan property slowly became an anchor. Constant movement gave way to rooted effort. The land offered stability without limiting ambition. Restoration projects could stretch over months or years without pressure to relocate. The space allowed experimentation, mistakes, and learning curves that city shops often could not afford. Many described the property as more than land. The space became an extension of personality and work ethic. Every shed, every parked vehicle, and every open stretch of ground told part of a longer story. Why chase speed when patience brought better results? That quiet philosophy echoed through the layout of Rust Valley itself. Over time, the property came to represent a rare mix of freedom and structure. Rural land provided room to breathe, while zoning and infrastructure supported serious enterprise. Workdays could stretch long, but nature remained close. Business demands stayed high, yet personal pace stayed grounded. The land did not just support a car empire. The land shaped a way of living built around passion, persistence, and space, to let ideas grow without interference. Fame, fortune, and staying grounded. Mike Hall's rise from a little-known car enthusiast to an internationally recognized television personality stands as one of those stories that feels surprising even in hindsight. Long before cameras arrived at Rust Valley, Hall was already living a life shaped by machines, hard work, and stubborn independence. Known for his towering frame and unmistakable blonde dreadlocks, Hall slowly became a figure people could not look away from. Fame did not come through chasing attention or crafting a public image. Instead, recognition followed naturally once audiences around the world discovered the man behind the piles of rusted cars and half-finished restorations. That unexpected exposure would eventually affect finances, reputation, and lifestyle in ways that even Hall likely never imagined at the beginning. Estimating Mike Hall's net worth has always been tricky, and numbers often vary depending on the source. Some estimates place the figure closer to $2 million, while others push it as high as $5 million. What most observers agree on is that the Netflix series Rust Valley Restorers played a meaningful role in increasing global visibility, especially after the second season reached viewers in roughly 170 countries. Still, Hall openly acknowledged that television success does not automatically translate into higher profits at the workshop. Hall explained that filming a reality show actually slowed operations down, saying the process made the shop about 30% less productive. That honesty often surprises people who assume television exposure guarantees easy money. Does fame always help a business, or can it sometimes get in the way of real work? Long before television crews ever showed up, Hall had already built much of his financial foundation through Chimera Springs Rock Works, a slope stabilization company that operated far outside the spotlight. That business, not entertainment, formed the backbone of early financial security. Television came later and added another layer rather than replacing the original work ethic. In January 2023, Hall expanded into digital media by launching the Rust Bros YouTube channel. The channel quickly gained traction, eventually reaching around 150,000 subscribers and more than 22 million views. Even so, Hall's wealth remains deeply tied to physical assets rather than screens. The sprawling car collection itself represents a major portion of overall value, far more than television checks alone. Despite international recognition, Hall has always guarded personal life details carefully. Family members rarely appear on screen, and conversations about relationships or home life remain minimal. That separation seems intentional rather than accidental. By drawing a clear line between public work and private space, Hall maintains a sense of normalcy that fame often strips away. As a result, even basic details about family life remain largely unknown. This privacy only adds to the curiosity surrounding the man behind the cameras. Another unusual choice sets Hall apart from many modern celebrities. Social media platforms hold little appeal. No constant posting, no curated online persona, and no daily updates. The focus stays firmly on cars, projects, and hands-on work. That practical mindset reflects a personality shaped long before likes and followers mattered. Still, Hall understands the value of attention when needed. At one point, journalists were reportedly charged $10 simply to photograph the collection, proving that business sense remains sharp even when avoiding the spotlight. Within the Rust Valley community, Hall's influence stretches far beyond entertainment. The Restoration Yard has become a cultural landmark, drawing car lovers from around the world. Jobs have been created, automotive history preserved, and forgotten vehicles given second chances. Off-camera, Hall often retreats to a lakeside home surrounded by mountains, balancing demanding projects with quiet family time. The restoration business follows the natural rhythm of British Columbia seasons, thriving in summer and continuing steadily through winter inside a heated workshop. As retirement age approaches, questions naturally arise about the future. Hall has begun downsizing the collection, a process that carries both relief and emotional weight. Still, enthusiasm remains strong, with selective projects chosen based on passion rather than pressure. What truly defines Mike Hall is not money or fame, but authenticity. In a world driven by profit margins, Hall continues to prioritize quality over quantity, passion over profit, and community over celebrity. The lifestyle achieved comes not from excess, but from the freedom to live entirely on personal terms. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.